What if I told you that if you could learn how to regulate the communication between your heart and your brain, that it could reduce your anxiety, lower your inflammation, it could improve creativity, stabilize your nervous system, and even strengthen your immune system? And what if I told you that the heart is sending more information to your brain than your brain is actually sending to your heart most of the time? Now, this is not mindset work. This is physiology. And this is your welcome into today's episode of the Holistic Therapy Revolution, where we are learning to align mind, body, and soul when talk is not always enough. And talk is not always enough in order to create the transformations and the changes that most of us are really looking for. So I'm Beth Miller. I'm a holistic psychotherapist, and I'm also creator of the Advanced Holistic Counseling and Coaching model. And I really believe that using modern, holistic, inspiring therapy is the way for us to really heal and thrive in the modern 21st century. And today we're going to be talking about heart-brain coherence, a scientifically researched technique that's developed by the HeartMath Institute, and why coherence might be one of the most powerful holistic tools that we have for not only stress and anxiety, but for harmonizing and aligning our inner world. So let's talk about stress. Now, what happens when we experience stress? The autonomic nervous system shifts into that sympathetic activation. That's fight or flight, and most of you know what that is. And when that happens, the adrenaline increases, cortisol rises, and heart rhythms become erratic and jagged. And our brainwaves also become dysregulated. In addition, our blood flow shifts away from the prefrontal cortex, which is the area that is responsible for reasoning, creativity, and emotion regulation. So in other words, stress creates physiological chaos. And it feels that way to us, but we probably never had it outlined so well as we do right now, learning so much about modern science and how we can do something dramatically different about the way we're responding to stress. And this chaos that we experience in our physiology does not just stay in your mind. It actually also affects your inflammation levels, your immune response, your hormonal balance, and your cardiovascular function. This is why chronic stress contributes to so many problematic physical conditions. And here is where it gets pretty fascinating. So, what's the science behind the heart-brain connection? And I'm going to tell you this science is really interesting, and I'm a why person, but if you're not super interested in the brief description of how coherence works, I will put in the show notes where you can actually do the practice of coherence with me today. It's in just a few moments, but if you want to jump right to that, please feel free. So research from the HeartMath Institute and other neurocardiology studies show that the heart has its own intrinsic nervous system. This is sometimes called the heart brain. So the heart has its own nervous system, which is just super interesting. And the heart communicates with the brain through 4 channels: the vagus nerve, hormonal signaling, electromagnetic fields, and neural pathways. Now, in fact, the heart sends more what's called afferent information or signals, and those afferent signals meaning upward, meaning the heart is sending more information upward to the brain than the brain is actually sending to the heart. And a lot of times we didn't know that before. This is something we're really learning a lot more about. And the pattern of the heart's rhythm directly influences your emotional processing, your attention, and your cognitive performance. So let's just say that one more time. The pattern of your heart's rhythm directly influences your emotional processing, your attention, and your cognitive performance. That's just huge. So when the heart rhythms are chaotic, which happens during stress, the brain reflects this chaos. And when the heart rhythms become smooth and what we call coherent, even, coherent, not jagged, the brain starts to synchronize with that stability. And this state is called physiological coherence, when the heart rhythm becomes smooth and coherent and the brain synchronizes with that stability, also becoming smooth and non-chaotic. So physiological coherence is measurable through what's called HRV, or heart rate variability. A higher, more coherent HRV pattern is associated with better emotional regulation, improved executive functioning, reduced anxiety, lower inflammatory markers, and greater resilience. So the higher your HRV, the more cohered your heart is, you're getting all of these great benefits. So this is not just relaxation, people. This is way beyond that. This is systemic synchronization. This is what we're talking about when we refer to alignment in holistic therapy, right? This is the physiological alignment that we're referring to. Now, why does coherence reduce inflammation and improve creativity? Well, when the body shifts into a more coherent state or into coherence, the parasympathetic nervous system activates. Parasympathetic nervous system is the calming part of us. So when we're more calm, our creativity increases. Here's why. Our cortisol decreases, our inflammatory cytokines reduce, our blood flow returns to the prefrontal cortex, and the prefrontal cortex comes back online because the stress is lower. And when the prefrontal cortex comes back online, functioning properly, something really powerful happens. We start thinking more clearly, we problem solve more creatively, and we respond instead of react. The inflammation in our body is also reduced because the body is no longer bracing for a threat. And the energy that was allocated to survival when we were in a stress state can now be allocated towards healing our immune system and to other really creative functions. So this is why people report feeling clearer, calmer, and more inspired after using coherence practices like you are about to learn. So this is the chemistry that is shifting in real time. Now, here's how to practice coherence. And we're going to do this together. I would love for you to jump in and do it with me. I find that the more experiential healing is, the more people transform, because right now when we do it, you'll sort of start developing a little bit of that muscle memory so you can use it later on your own. You can always, of course, return to this part in the video so that you can follow along to do more coherence exercises. All right, so what I'd like you to do is gently bring your attention to the center of your chest and put your hand over your heart. And I'd like you to just begin breathing slowly and evenly. Just slowly and evenly, no pressure, no problem, just a little bit of slow, even breathing. And on your next inhale, see if you can inhale for about 5 seconds. And on your exhale, do the same. Exhale for about 5 seconds. So you're inhaling for 5 and exhaling for 5. And keep your breath smooth and rhythmic. Just nice, gentle breathing in and out. Now I'd like you to imagine that when you're breathing in and breathing out, you're breathing into your heart and then you're breathing out from your heart. Now, don't overthink this. Just let yourself breathe in and imagine it going into your heart. And then on your breath out, imagine the breath leaving from your heart. Nice and easy, no pressure. Just focusing on your heart area as you're breathing. Now I would like you to bring to mind something that makes you feel warm and cuddly. Something that feels really nice to imagine. Often, people will picture a basket of puppies, a basket of little baby goats, a basket of bunny rabbits, or a basket of kittens. If there's something else that you'd like to think of that makes you feel that way, please feel free, but those are really common choices. And now that you're thinking of that little adorable basket, I want you to pay attention to what's happening in the basket. How cute they are, how adorable, how sweet, how warm and fuzzy. And let yourself actually start feeling how darn cute they are. And now I'd like you to start breathing that feeling into your heart. And then breathing it out again. Just breathing this lovely, warm, fuzzy feeling into your heart area. And then out again. Nice and easy. And we do this just for about 60 seconds. And as you're doing that, you might notice your heart is beginning to soften, come into focus. Your breath starts to slow. Your emotions might feel good. And all that you're doing right now is you're just stabilizing your heart rhythm. And as those rhythms stabilize, they stay coherent. And they send coherent signals to the brain. Now, if you'd like to open up your eyes and put your hand down from your heart, you're welcome to, or you can continue doing the coherence for the rest of the time that I'll be speaking. As the brain synchronizes and the heart synchronizes, the nervous system shifts towards a balance. Your adrenaline decreases, your cortisol reduces, and you begin to have a state of coherence in your system that benefits almost every part of your being. Now, this is the holistic therapy revolution because traditional talk therapy, when we stay in cognitive insight, may not always do the full job because insight does not automatically shift physiology or your immune system or your creativity or your access to your highest self. But coherence does. Coherence aligns your mind, because your cognition stabilizes, your brain softens in a positive way. It aligns your body because the nervous system regulates, your system strengthens. It aligns your soul because elevated emotions reconnect us to meaning and connection. And this is science meeting spirituality so beautifully. It's measurable biology meeting intentional awareness. And it empowers people to actively generate healing states within themselves instead of just waiting for stress to pass. So if you struggle with stress, which we all do at times, and if you struggle with anxiety in a more powerful way, you might want to try coherence more frequently as part of your everyday routine. maybe for just 5 minutes. Slowly breathing, help your heart to focus, elevate your emotions. You can let your physiology shift first. You can let it shift before you try to think about things, right? Before you try to plan your day or think about how to respond to a difficult email. Perhaps you could just do this coherence for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. And you'll find that your system will be so much more elevated that the way that you respond and feel and experience things will be very different. And I would like to thank you. I'd like to thank all of you for your openness, for your curiosity, for your presence, for joining here, and for being part of the holistic therapy revolution.